Good morning, Wareham. It's Connor here. Today, for history class, we're going to be reading a chapter called Old Hickory. This is all about Andrew Jackson.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's something you might have noticed about the first 6 presidents. They were all from Virginia or Massachusetts. There was something else, too. They were all aristocrats. I think that's a little heavy. The Adams might have been upper middle class, but they weren't as rich as the Virginians. They had been born into successful, prosperous families. That I agree with. That gave them the time and opportunity to be well educated. John Adams and his son John Quincy Adams were both Harvard graduates. James Madison went to the College of New Jersey, Princeton now it's called. Thomas Jefferson and James Monroe attended the College of William and Mary. Only George Washington was not a college man. Still, he was well-read and rich. Yeah, he probably was the richest of them. Now, how do you think you would feel if you were living in 19th century America in Tennessee and you were poor? Do you think you would have a chance to be president? Well, after Andrew Jackson was elected the 7th president, you would know you had a chance. If Andy Jackson could be president, then any white male born in the United States could be president. Jackson was born in 1767 in a log cabin on the border between North and South Carolina. His parents are poor Scotch-Irish farmers. The Scotch-Irish were people who had moved from Scotland to Northern Ireland to the United States. Andrew's dad died just before he was born. His mother had to move with her 3 sons into her sister's home. There were 11 children in the house, and you know how kids are. It was a noisy place. Andy soon learned to speak out and wrestle and make the older boys respect him. He learned to read. In those days, many farmers could not read, so most towns had public readers, people who would read the newspapers aloud so everyone would know the news of the colonies. There's a story that when Andrew Jackson was a boy, he was a public reader. Selected as often as any grown man, according to the tale in 1776, when Jackson was 9, he read aloud a declaration that had been written in Philadelphia. It said, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal." And it also said that these united colonies are, and of right ought to be, free and independent states. Jackson scholar Robert Rimini says the often told story is apocryphal, which means it's fiction, made up. The truth is, Jackson was a bright boy, a reader, and excited to be part of these transforming times. 4 years after that declaration was read, Andrew, at 13, joined the South Carolina militia. He was captured and ordered to clean a British officer's boots. Andrew refused. The angry officer came at him with a sword. Jackson carried the scars for the rest of his life. Andrew's older brother was killed fighting in that Revolutionary War. Andrew and another brother were taken to a military prison where they got smallpox. His second brother died. Then his mother died. At 14, Andrew Jackson was an orphan. "I felt utterly alone," he said. He learned to take care of himself. He had to. He was a fighter with an explosive temper who liked to have a roaring good time. Sometimes he drank and gambled, but he learned from his mistakes. People were attracted to him. He was smart and honest and fun to be around. But what should he do with his life? He tried being a school teacher, but that didn't work out. Then he studied law and became a lawyer. That got him started in politics. When he was 21, he was appointed Attorney General for the region that would soon become Tennessee. By the time he was 30, he owned 2 large plantations near Nashville. Andrew Jackson was a man of action. A born leader who was always doing things and going places and changing the world he lived in. He served in Congress. He was a judge, a general, and a military hero. He came into National Party politics like a cyclone from off the western prairies, wrote a professor named Woodrow Wilson, who would become president himself. Jackson formed a new political party, the Democratic Party. But when Harvard University gave an honorary degree to Andrew Jackson, John Quincy Adams was so horrified, he was a Harvard graduate, and thought his school was disgracing itself, that he refused to attend the ceremony. JQA, John Quincy Adams, called Jackson a barbarian and a savage who can scarcely spell his own name. That barbarian and savage became an astonishingly popular president. He was tall and lean and stood straight as the barrel of a rifle. His eyes were blue, bright blue. His thick hair was the color of sand, although it turned silver long before he became president. His soldiers called him Old Hickory because they said he was strong as a hickory tree. And his portrait, as you can see, a kind face, was also a sad face. His wife Rachel, whom he loved dearly, died just before his inauguration. What an inauguration it was. The people, ordinary people, had elected one of their own to be president. They wanted to be there to see him take office. They wanted to celebrate with him. And so they did. Some came from 500 miles away. It seemed to people in Washington as if everyone in the West had come to town for the big day. They all wanted to get into the White House at the same time. They poured in through the doors in their buckskin clothes and muddy boots, and they climbed on the satin chairs and broke glasses and spilled orange punch and pushed and shoved each other. President Jackson had to go out a back door to get away from the mob. Finally, someone thought to bring buckets of punch onto the lawn, and that got the crowd out of the president's house. Some people remembered President Washington's receptions, where men wore gloves and silver buckles and talked softly. Those were the good old days. How comfortable they seemed. This modern world of Andrew Jackson and his friends would be the end of the United States, some said. That old Federalist Chief Justice John Marshall swore in President Jackson. It was said that Marshall would just as soon have sworn in the devil. Mobs would take over. Life would be awful, so the aristocratic leaders thought. But it didn't happen. Andrew Jackson did change the presidency. It was never the same again. Most people think he made it stronger. It helped that he had good manners, natural manners. People who thought they would be angry at him ended up being charmed. For many of the earlier presidents, democracy meant government for the people. During the Jacksonian era, democracy meant government by the people. Let the people rule was his motto. And ever since Andrew Jackson's time, we have. Alright, so Andrew Jackson really made everybody part of it. The poor people really voted him in, not the rich. So he did do that. He was good for the poor people. Unfortunately, as we will learn, he was really only good for the poor white people. Not everyone. No. All right, but we'll learn all about that. All right, have a great day. See you.